The Brooklyn Nets are arguably the biggest disaster in the NBA this season. Coming into the season, they were expected to be a legit title contender, but 7 games in, they look like one of the worst teams in the league with just a miserable 2-5 record. On Tuesday afternoon, they fired head coach Steve Nash. The on-court issues are bad enough, but they also have off-court issues, with Kyrie Irving recently deciding to tweet a link to a film that endorses anti-Semitic messaging. He was condemned by both owner Joseph Tsai and the NBA for that tweet, and Kyrie eventually deleted it. Just the latest stunt from Kyrie Irving, who's known for being an anti-science conspiracy theorist. Well, it looks like the Nets couldn't get enough drama because they decided to hire disgraced head coach Ime Udoka very quickly after firing Steve Nash. Ime Udoka coached Boston to the finals last year, but was suspended for the season by Boston for having a sexual relationship with a colleague, which went against company policy. Now, I made a whole video where I went in depth about that situation, and if you want to see it, click the link above. It's a lot messier than what the Celtics let on, and it's really shocking that he's getting another chance to coach so quickly after many people with NBA connections saying that he would probably never coach in the NBA again. I'm sure Ime Udoka is jumping for joy now that he's coaching in the NBA again, but he's walking into a hell of a mess. But how big of a disaster are the Nets exactly? The Nets are a team that's extremely talented, but they're also very flawed. And one of the biggest flaws on this team has been Ben Simmons' lack of scoring aggression. Ben Simmons is averaging just 6 points per game, which is really bad, especially for someone who you're paying over $30 million a year. The Nets need Ben Simmons to create easy baskets for himself and his teammates to relieve pressure from KD and Kyrie, but he's rarely looking to drive to the rim, and even when he does drive to the rim, his finishing has fallen off a cliff this year. To be fair to Ben Simmons, it's early in the season and he's coming off major back surgery, but the Nets need him to produce offensively at a high level, and so far this year, he's been downright awful. Not only is Ben Simmons not giving KD and Kyrie enough help offensively, but nobody else on this roster is either. The sad thing is KD and Kyrie are individually having great seasons, with both guys averaging over 30 points per game, but nobody else on the roster is averaging over 12. The Nets offense is very stagnant and ISO heavy with little ball movement, which is why they only rank 15th in the league in assists per game. With the lack of support next to KD and Kyrie and a lack of ball movement, it's no wonder that the Nets only rank 16th in the NBA in offensive rating, despite the immense offensive talent on this team. And while the offense is average at best, the Nets defense is rock bottom. In fact, the Nets rank 29th in the league in defensive rating. On paper, the Nets look better defensively this year. Ben Simmons is a former Defensive Player of the Year candidate, not to mention the Nets picked up a solid 3-and-D wing in Royce O'Neal over the offseason. Unfortunately, Ben Simmons not only looks bad on offense, but he's also regressed defensively. He's averaging 4 fouls per game this year and already fouled out of 2 games. The Nets are also one of the worst teams that protected the paint and defending the 3-point line, and they're one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA as well. While the Nets don't have the best defensive personnel, a lot of their struggles comes down to defensive effort, and a lot of this is probably tied to coaching, which is partly why the Nets decided to get rid of Steve Nash. So can Ime Udoka fix this colossal disaster? It wouldn't be the first time that he was needed to turn tragedy into triumph. In fact, when Udoka inherited the Celtics, they were coming off an underwhelming season and a gentleman's sweep, ironically, to the Brooklyn Nets. And last season, the Celtics were mediocre midway through the year, and there was even talk of splitting up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But Udoka did a fantastic job of getting the Celtics to embrace selflessness and accountability, which helped to turn the team around. He also got the Celtics to completely buy in on the defensive end, and they ranked number 1 in defensive rating last year. Going from 11th in the East midway through the season to the NBA Finals was one of the most improbable turnarounds we've ever seen, and Udoka was definitely a huge reason that happened. So can Udoka do it again with the Brooklyn Nets? With better coaching, the Nets should be a much better team than they currently are. If he could get these guys to play with better effort on defense and play more unselfishly on offense, the Nets should be a better team, and on paper should still be one of the top teams in the East. but this is still a pretty flawed roster, and if Ben Simmons can never regain his all-star form, it's hard to see the Nets becoming a true contender again. It's still early enough in the season that I think the Nets can turn around and become a top 5 seed, but with how competitive the East is this year, it's hard for me to see the Nets becoming a real championship contender, even with the coaching of Ime Udoka. But that's just my opinion. Now I want to hear from you guys. Do you think Ime Udoka can turn the Nets around and make them a legit contender? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like on it and hit that subscribe button, and click this video to see a full in-depth analysis of the Ime Udoka situation in Boston.